Hey guys, welcome back to Urology 101. I'm James Farrell, and Urology 101 is my video blog that's on common topics in urology. They are often taboo or they're embarrassing just because we talk about sex organs a lot. Now, my content's focused on getting you some useful knowledge that you can apply. This video and all my other videos you can find on my website, which is urology101.com. All the videos are on YouTube as well, channel name is the same. And I post most days on Instagram, and I think it's great content, shorter format. Please check that out, Urology 101. Now, let's get on to today's topic, which is annoying and insidious and is so not sexy. It is nocturnal urination, to us known as nocturia, or just getting up to pee a lot at night. So there we go. Again, 3 or 4 names for the same thing. But suffice it to say that we will get people coming in 3, 4, 5 times a day talking about how they urinate at night, sometime between 2 and 8 times a night. It just be miserable, right? Because if you're getting up all the time at night to urinate, you're not getting good sleep. And if you're not getting good sleep, then you're not getting through your days very well. And all of your hormones get a little thrown off, and you just don't feel as good. And then the days just kind of drag together, and it's really a problem. Now, a major point of this video is going to be whether all the times you're getting up at night are related to problems with your bladder and urine, or is it related to something else? Because the something else actually applies here. It might really be related to sleep apnea, or it might be related to insomnia or anxiety about sleeping, or it could be related to some other medical conditions that cause you to make a ton of urine at night. So all these things play. And I've sat through lectures that are like 2 hours long on nocturia. So recognize that it's not always really straightforward as, oh, this is your problem, take a pill and move on, that there is actually a lot to work up here and think about. So let's start off with where we usually start with our patients, which is at least defining it. So we expect that people most of the time will get up once a night, right? That's okay. And in general, most people ask their bladders to do something every single night that they never ask them to do during the day, which is to shut up for like 7 to 9 hours, right? During the day, we never go 7 to 9 hours out urinating, but we hope every single night that our bladders will handle that. So right up front, recognize that we put our bladder in a tough spot. Now, the main question I'll tend to start off with people is, do you think that you're waking up because you have this sensation of, oh my lord, my bladder's going to burst, I need to run to the bathroom, this woke me up? Or is it more like, well, I'm awake, I just woke up, I feel like I kind of got to pee, all right, I'll just go pee. Because there's a big difference there. I mean, one of them is clearly you're making a ton of urine, and if you're having full voids at night when you wake up and go to the bathroom, then that really might play to be you. But the other one is more like, well, I'm not sleeping that well, and I don't want to wake up in an hour and have to pee, so I might as well get up now and go pee so that I don't deal with it later, right? I mean, they're a little different. Now, let's take the first one with full voids. One of the ways that we'll work with that is called avoiding diarrhea, and this is just the least sexy thing that we can create, right? But it's simple, cheap, and it's effective. We tend to ask people to figure out, or not figure out, but record when they urinate and how much for about 3 days. It doesn't have to be 3 days in a row, but it can be. Now, that takes a little bit of work, right? You got to put a hat down in the toilet if you're a woman, or pee into like a measuring cup or something if you're a guy, or even if you're a woman, and then write it down and get rid of it. But what that does, it tells us some great information. It tells us how many times you urinate a day, and over a 24-hour period, I mean. It tells us how much of that happens at night. Is it a third? Is it like 50%? Is it really only like 10%? And it tells us how many times you're getting up here, and then how much you really fit in your bladder functionally. Like what do you get to before you have to pee? So all that stuff is really great information. And if it turns out that you're urinating a majority of your urine at night, or more than you should, then there's some stuff we can work with there. So some people who are in their 50s, 60s, 70s will have some heart problems and some blood pressure problems. And maybe they carry a lot of fluid in their legs. And so, when they're walking around during the day, gravity keeps that fluid down there. But when they lay down at night, they lay even. So the heart is here and the bladder is here and the legs are here, and gravity has no effect on that. So all of this fluid comes rushing back into the body, and your heart pumps it all, and your body says, geez, we got too much fluid. And your bladder says, great, I'll get rid of it. And then you wake up with a full bladder, annoyed as can be. So if that's the case, there are medications that can help. Some of those might be blood pressure, it might be heart stuff, or it might be bladder-related stuff. but that usually can be dealt with through primary care physicians and your medication changes. Now, let's say that it's not that. Let's say that you're healthy to the extent that you don't have those problems I mentioned, and you just have a ton of urine that you make at night based on your voiding diarrhea. Okay, there are ways to help that too, because some people physiologically will just do that. All right, so that gets a medication and can be treated that way too. Well, let's say that there's a slightly different issue. So now we're going to talk a little bit about sleep stuff. And one of the questions is, do you snore at night? So we know that obstructive sleep apnea, which goes along with snoring a lot, or just sleep apnea, all of which can be dealt with through sleep labs, pulmonology, that type of stuff. We know that there's this paradox where people who have that problem can sort of fake their body into thinking that they have too much fluid going around. And so there will be a bunch of chemicals that tell the kidneys to get rid of fluid, which will make more urine. So if you are somebody who your partner said like, hey, you got to work on your snoring, like this is a problem, okay, then that might really be the issue. And there are a couple ways to work on that. One certainly is this thing called CPAP, or there's positive air pressure that keeps your airways open. And that's, again, sleep lab, pulmonology is where you need to go. But part of that too is that sometimes if you've gained some weight, that can cause those airways to get more tight, and that can be the problem. So exercise and some weight loss may really, really get rid of that problem or really improve it for you. So please talk with doctors about that. Now, if your sleep apnea really is getting treated, that can solve the urinating problem for some of the population too, especially if the issue really is you make too much urine because you're snoring a lot, because of the mechanism I mentioned. So that might be an answer as well. Now, what if it's not a snoring thing and none of the stuff we talked about? And what if you urinate and you just make like a small amount? You get up a bunch of times at night, you have the urge to go a bunch, and you just don't urinate that much, but you're getting up 4 or 5 times. That's probably more related to sleep as well. And it's probably related a little bit to some level of insomnia, maybe anxiety around sleeping. Maybe your mind just runs a ton at night and you're a light sleeper. And 2 directions to go here. One are sleep habits. So do you have sort of a defined method that you do for the 30 or 40 minutes before bed? Do you turn the lights down? Do you stop looking at TV and computer screens? Some of these types of things actually really affect how we sleep. And in that case, I really recommend talking to somebody in sleep hygiene because they have great ideas. And there's a lot of data out there. And you can even find some of that on the internet in terms of things that you can do to try and improve your ability to get better sleep. And you might find that this waking up at night lessens and your urinating at night lessens. Now, maybe it's not that. Maybe insomnia and some of those things aren't the issue. And maybe you just have this urge that gets you out of bed, right? I would ask you then too, do you have that urge during the day? So is there something you're putting in your body? And if this is the case, we did a video on this a little while back about peeing all the time. Is there this urge that makes you just want to run to the bathroom? Because it might be something related to artificial sweeteners, coffee, tea, alcohol, caffeine, and a few other things, spicy foods, that can really involve causing your bladder to feel like it has to pee a lot. And if you're having those at night, then you're going to get up more. I mean, I think just personally I can tell you that in my 20s, I could have some drinks at night and I'd never have to wake up in the middle of the night. But as I've gotten into my mid-30s, I'll have 2 or 3 drinks on a night out or something. And, 3, 4 a.m. rolls around, I wake up, I'm like, I gotta pee. And unfortunately, part of that might be life, but I've noticed that that's something that happens to me. And so maybe there's something that you're doing that you can actually change or modify or at least deal with and expect that. Now, another thing might be how much fluid just in general do you drink in the evenings? Because we certainly know that if we have people drink a lot more water during the day and then really keep it to a minimum only when their mouth is wet at night, if they reduce the amount of fluid they just put in their body after 6 or 7 p.m., they can drop the amount of urine they make overnight, and that might knock you down from like 4 times getting up at night down to 2. And that's a win. I mean, getting up at twice at night's not perfect, but taking out 50% of that is a win, and that's great. So those are all things. Now, if it's really just the overactivity and whatnot, there are medications that we can use called anticholinergics, Detrol, Toviaz, Ditropan, some of those types of Vesicare. All of those are different types of medications that do the same thing. And there's another group that helps relax the bladder a little bit in a different mechanism. It's called Myrbetriq, and that can do the same thing. So maybe those will be helpful. They will not cure the problem. The other stuff I talked about actually can get you towards curing. but they can at least mask a lot of the symptoms, and maybe that's what you need. So a lot of directions to go there. I hope that's been helpful. I hope you get some sleep. Take care of yourselves. Take care of your family. Send me some questions if you have them. You guys have a good night.